The Census Bureau has released new data showing that the median the income in the United States is up, poverty is down, and the number of Americans on who have access or have health insurance is up. And that's great news, man. That's great. That's great to hear. It's great news because, we want poverty to not exist, right? That should be the goal. We want median incomes to be enough to survive and in the face of inflation, right? That's one of the goals, right? There could be another goal. You want income inequality to go down, but according to the same report, income inequality has remained the same, statistically the same. So I'm going to share some of the data with you, and I want to unpack some of what it means. Now, these graphs, I'm not sure how good these graphs are going to show, but this first graph on your screen shows the median household income by race between 1967 and 2015. And particularly, you'll see at the end of 2015, the new data shows that the average income for Asian Americans is $77,000. For white Americans is $62,000. For all races, the average, the median income rather, is $56,516, which is up 5% from last year. That represents the largest increase in median income since for the last 50 years, I believe. So a 5% increase in median incomes across all races. Again, that is a phenomenal thing. I think that's great. Of course, until you unpack the data and go underneath the data, but for right now, it's a good thing. Let's talk about how good it is, and then we'll unpack some of the problems with it. But going back to that same graph, you can see the median income for all races is $56,000, and down there at the bottom, the blue line, they might as well have painted it black. Are African Americans or Black Americans, the median income, it has gone up from $35,000 last year to $36,000, I believe, $898. So African Americans' median income has gone up. Still at the bottom of the barrel of all races in America. African Americans are still, I mean, the poverty line is what, 24,600. More than half of African Americans are just on the other side of poverty in America. And, again, this is great news that it's gone up, but we have a tendency in America to say, oh, man, we made it. And then we no longer look at the structural problems that persist, that continue to keep African Americans at the bottom of the barrel and continues to keep incomes rising at increasing at a lower rate than inflation and the cost of living. In other words, your check doesn't go up as quickly as your rent. So this is a good thing, partially, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It's a good thing, but it's not something that we should herald and champion as we should not allow this to stop us from looking at the structural problems, because there are structural problems that persist and we have not addressed in any form or fashion, right? So we'll take what we can get, but we won't be distracted by this. Here's a little more data. Real household income. Actually, is this the same? Yeah, same exact one. Let me go to this next one. Poverty by race, I thought was revealing also. And unfortunately, this graph is not it's not displaying well on your screen. So I'll just discuss the numbers. So poverty by race. Hang on a second. There we go. So at the bottom section, you see where it says Hispanic origin. Underneath that, the first column is white people. In 2014, the white Americans living below the poverty rate in 2014 was 12.7%. If you look at the fourth column, and if you go all the way across to 2015, you see that it's gone down to 11.6%. So white people are less poor. All right. African Americans in 2014, the poverty rate was the amount of people, percentage of people below the poverty line was 26.2%. If you look at the bottom right-hand side of the fourth column, you'll see 26.2%. That's how many African Americans were in poverty. More than a quarter of African Americans in 2014 were in poverty. You'll see that has decreased from 26.2% to 24.1%. So, fewer African Americans are in poverty. I mean, that's a real number of 735,000 less African Americans in poverty. Yep. Make sure I'm reading that right. Yeah, 735,000 less. So that's a good thing. Absolutely. Still have a quarter of African Americans in poverty. I'm sorry. We cannot take our mind and our off of that. And they're in poverty. Let somebody say it. They'll tell you that they're in poverty because of morality problems, right? It's always something that they did. They didn't work hard enough. They didn't go to the right schools. They didn't get the right job. They didn't do the right internship. And they are, all these other things, but no one would ever look at the structural problems. And when we get results like this, it really makes us tend to look away from the structural problems. Now, here's the bad news in the data. According to this is not the result of increased wages. This is actually part of the increase in the median income is because people are not necessarily making more per hour. They're working more hours. And it's not that they got a better job. They're working multiple jobs. And I was discussing it last week. We discussed it last week, the teachers who the article from The Nation that was discussing teachers who are picking up Uber jobs on the side, right? They're picking up extra jobs on the side to make ends meet. Well, this is a trend that is spreading across the nation. People are working more than one job. They're working more than two jobs. They're working as many hours as they possibly can. And so it's, again, this goes to the fact that we have not addressed the structural problem. It's that humans adapt. And we adapt to the conditions that which we're given. And the only way that people have found that they can get out of this vicious cycle is by working themselves damn near to death. And I can personally testify to that, right? You do what you have to do. And this is the most hilarious thing about it is that people look at you in your situation and they say that you're in poverty because you don't work hard enough. But some of the hardest people I've ever seen in my life are people who are probably below the poverty line. And but what can you do with with an $8 an hour job? What can you do with jobs that, your rent goes up by 10% every year and your raise is 3%, if your cost of living raise is 3%, if you get that? What do? You end up working 2 or 3 jobs. And that's the phenomenon that we're seeing. We're seeing the gig economy. We're seeing people renting out their homes, Airbnb. People are doing side gigs. They're driving for Uber. They're driving for Lyft. And so this has padded our results. Yes, there are some people who have gotten genuine increases in salary. The labor market is tightening, and so wages are going up, but they have not gone up enough to accommodate for all of the increases that we see in the median income. What we've seen is that people are working more hours and working more jobs to make ends meet. So that's why whenever we get good news, it's great to celebrate it. Let's celebrate it because it's good that, fewer people are in poverty, but we can't celebrate it to the fact that we think that we've done what's necessary to fix the structural problems that are always lingering underneath that we never address.